Do you have any Svarim or no Svarim?
No Svarim.
Oh boy. Okay. So we're on page 355. We'll just, mention the page and discuss the issue that we've been learning. What?
We're almost done with the Maamarim.
Almost done with the Maamarim, yeah. And the next Maamarim, which I hope to start tomorrow, is about Chasana. It's the Maamarim that the Rebbe said on his Chasana, which is next week, the anniversary, the 14th of Kislev, and so it's next week. So it's a good Maamarim, and it's also said by all the Chabad weddings. And who knows, maybe one of your sons or son-in-laws or grandsons one day will say the Maamarim. This way he'll say, oh, I learned it with Rabbi Dalfin many years ago. Anyway, so here it is, 355. So we're learning here about this idea of, we learned that Torah, it brings refuah la'olam. Now the normal pshat is that if you learn Torah, you're healthier. You stay away from narishkeit, then you're healthier, because all the narishkeit and the stuff that exists in the world leads us to issues. That's the pshat bepashtus. But the previous Rebbe here takes a spin on the word le'olam. And by the way, he's not the machadish of this. This is from the Alter Rebbe already in his Maamarim, in his discourses, where the Alter Rebbe says that the word le'olam, olam, is associated with the word helem. Helem. What does helem mean? Concealment. Lahalim, to conceal something. So he says, Torah is refuah la'olam. Torah is a cure for concealment. And if you want to reveal and see what's going on behind the scenes, you learn Torah. Because when you learn Torah, your eyes are illuminated. And the issue that you're dealing with becomes illuminated, so you don't just see it at surface value, but you see what's really behind it. This is what he says over here, and that's what we learned yesterday. So he goes back to the opening verse of the Maamarim. In Ruach HaMoishel tale olecha, if the spirit of the Yetzer Hara dominates over you, mikoimcha al tanach, don't forsake your place. Ki marpe yaniach chatoyim gedoyim, because the healing will alleviate great transgressions. So the Rebbe says that the Ruach HaMoishel goes on the Yetzer Hara. And we discussed yesterday that there is a regular Yetzer Hara and there's a real coarse and grub Yetzer Hara. The difference between choshech and afela. Darkness and double darkness, afela. And he said, especially, during the time of Golus, there is particular obstacles to Torah and the service of the heart. Whatever they are, from the outside and the inside. You have to go here, I have to go here, I have to do this for my family, I have, all the obligations. So the Rebbe says, in this place of difficulty, in Pogim and if this disgusting guy, the Yetzer Hara, cheppers you, remember I told you the word yesterday, chepper. He cheppers you, bothers you. In this dark world, we, by standing strong, we chepper the Yetzer Hara, we give it a ride, we give it a shake. And he brings the pasuk, Eis asher sholat ha'odam be'odam. And he explained that there is a time when the Adam, the negative Adam, bothers the Adam the Kedusha. So he says, if and although the purpose of the bothering of the Yetzer Hara to the Yetzer Tov is to make him stronger, and that's the idea of the Shibud Golus, that we went into Golus Vayinatzlu es Mitzrayim. We emptied out Mitzrayim. Says Rashi, so kimitzula she'ein beidog. We emptied out all the spark. It was like an empty net, that didn't have any fish left in it because the fish were all gone. So we also extracted the Reish Beis Nitzutzah, the 202 sparks. We have, nevertheless, it's all true, but this means that the Yetzer Hara can bother Kedusha. V'gam mizgaber l'misa kaloch. It says Yaini over there, and Tuvia, it says, not only will the Yetzer Hara bother you, it will overpower you. As our holy rabbis say, the Yitzre shel Adam is gaber b'chol yoyim. You know the Chazal say, Boaz, that the Yetzer Hara of a person overpowers him daily. So what's the answer? Okay, we know now about the problem. What's the answer? The solution? The solution is Moshchei Beis HaMedrash. Schlep the Yetzer Hara, the Gemara says. Schlep him into the Beis HaMedrash. The Zeo Asorech Tov. This means he's quoting from the Targum on the verse of the pasuk of in Ruach HaMoishel. It says, "Schlep the Yetzer Hara to a good place." Mokem HaTorah. What does it mean, a good place? Schlep him into a place of Torah. The Zeu Mikoyim Shel Nefesh Elikis. Within yourself, where is the good place? It's the domain, the abode of the godly soul, the neshama. Schlep the Yetzer Hara, say, come for a ride with me. Where are we going? We're going to the Nefesh Elikis. The Havesa Noheg Lemekim Bei, which means, what? That I accustom myself to stand here. Don't let go. In other words, grab him, schlep him into the place of Torah, into the place of the godly soul of the neshama, where really he was also, remember what I told you yesterday, and we had the discussion, Elazar said his vart, I said my story, and all that discussion about how the Yetzer Hara is only an agent, like he said yesterday, the story with the for the tefillin, the sarah sticking out and all that. So that means that, so let him know, let the Yetzer Hara know, my dear Yetzer Hara, I'm not letting go of you, because really, you come from here. You're making trouble, and your job is to make trouble, but who appointed you to make trouble? HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So remember that you begin with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and really the ultimate is to be in the Beis HaMedrash and learn. That's what he says.
Isn't this the Chabad song? Hey, you little Johnny, what are you doing in the market?
Yeah.
You don't buy.
You don't sell. All you do is yell. Yes. Liyoi is very good, Boaz. Very good. Liyoi is ki ha-Torah. Let's continue. Liyoi is ki ha-Torah hirefu al-olam. And why is this? Because since we established before that Torah is a healing for the world, ashal yedei zeh, through Torah learning, yaniach hatoim gedolim, we accomplish that we alleviate great transgressions, great avedas. Shari yochol li is asher kama dvorim shim hoya yedei shal pitei masurim hoya meinei asatz v'lasoisen. The Rebbe gets back to a basic point. Previous Rebbe, especially in those years in 1924, he spoke a lot of amaratzes. I mean, there's a lot of amaratzes. Ignorance today, there was a tremendous amount then as well. And the Rebbe, one of the things that he pushed was basic Yiddishkeit, basic halacha, to know the laws. So over here he alludes to it. He says, if the Yid would know that this is and this is forbidden, then they would prevent themselves from doing it. The Rebbe is being matzdik. He's being positive about the Jews that sin and transgress, and he's saying that the reason why is because they don't know. If they would have known better, they would have never have done it. That's why Torah illuminates a person and separates him completely and totally from all the nations in the world. Now he concludes the Maamarim, and this is the meaning. If the spirit of dominance for the Yetzer Hara overpowers you, when there's been given to a person some type of dominance and control, what should you do? Yisnaig ba'anova. Conduct yourself with modesty. And through modesty, the limud ha-Torah and the learning of Torah, yochel is gaber al nefesh abamis. He can overpower the nefesh habamis. Uvezeh yashlim hakavonom bebriyas ha'odam, and this will complete the purpose why man was created on earth. Lahoyres ha'olam, to illuminate the world al yedei ha'torah v'mitzvos. So this is the end of the Maimer, and just to recap a summation of the entire Maimer briefly, he began by talking about the idea that the Chazal, the Medrash says, there's two taichin in the pasuk in Ruach HaMoishel. One it goes on the power of the Yetzer Hara, and one it goes on a person who's put in a position of authority. And you remember in our early discussions in the of the Maimer, the first 5 or 10 shiurim, we spoke about the idea that the Chazal say that Godel Hador nitfas ba'oven Hador. That if there is sin in the generation, who is to blame? The leader. And the question is why. So the Rebbe explained because he was missing anova, humility, and that lack of humility allowed for the avera of the sin, of the generation, and hence he's blamed for not having the humility. And the Rebbe spoke a lot about that, and that's how he connected it, and he went into the whole theme of giving criticism, because the person in a position of authority is in a position of giving criticism. That's why he's put there, right? What's a CEO? A CEO is someone's hired by a board to make sure things are going right, and if things aren't going right, he has to open his mouth, or she has to open her mouth, and if they don't, they are blamed, and they're ultimately fired. So the position of a CEO is a position of gaiva, in a way, of greatness, exaltedness. However, he cautioned us so much in this Maimer, and that's why this Maimer, Lazy, you weren't here in the beginning, but this Maimer, the Rebbe in Hayom Yom, for the 24th of Tishrei, when he talks about making a farbrengen every Shabbos Mavorchim, and Chabad is on Shabbos Mavorchim, particularly a farbrengen, where you sit together, you say L'chaim, you say words of Torah and inspiration. So the Chasidim of old, so the Chasidim of old, they would sit together. They were serious guys, but they were people, and they would get under their skin. And
you know why? Because if you've been to Nezhin, or you've been to Hadish, or you've been to 17 in France, you've been to Ukraine, to the forge, all these places, they're freezing cold. Yeah. So it was a big mysterious establishment for the Chassidim to come out. So therefore they would do it once a month, and they would all come together only once a month, and they'd have to drink a lot of vodka because they'd have to warm up. Baruch Hashem and Ramat Ben Shemesh, we did every Shabbos.
Anyway, so the point is that they got under each other's skin. I mean, they in Yiddish there's a word oy ziddelin. They really, I mean, you're talking about people who were, I mean, they were people, but they were, into avodas Hashem, and to themselves. And to others, he said, "You jerk! Why aren't you davening better? Why aren't you learning better? What's with your gaiva? You know Torah, but you stink from gaiva." And so the Rebbe says in that Hayom Yom that's not the approach of a Chasidus of Habrengen. That's not to go and curse each other out to the point where you humiliate someone is wrong and forbidden and not right. And the Rebbe says there, and to know the details of this, learn this Maimer that we just finished learning. That's why we were learning this Maimer, because Shmuel read it at Tishrei, and the Rebbe says there, you should learn this Maimer well. So that's why I thought we'd learn this Maimer. So what do we have? We have the conditions. The conditions were given in this Maimer, according to the previous Rebbe, for giving constructive criticism. He doesn't say don't give constructive criticism. That's what I'm telling you, because if you're a CEO, your job is to give constructive criticism. If you don't, you're a failure. But you have to do it, number one, with, in Yiddish we say the expression, by Chabad Hasidim they would use the expression on negel. On means without, negel means nails, sharp nails. Don't look to poke the guy in the face, in the head, in the back, to shtech. Get rid of that shtech. Number 2, never do it in public. It's an issue to embarrass halbonas panim, of course, to embarrass someone. Number 3, your intent should be the issue, not the who. If your intent is the who, it's not legitimate, and you have no right giving such criticism. Number 4, he said, the idea is to not be impacted, insulted, or upset if the person hears you once, twice, 3 times, and then he spits you in the face, and he does it again. And you say to yourself, you're such a jerk. I spent so much time with you. I spent hours, and I spoke to you, and at the end of the day, you go, and it really bothers you. It really bothers. Says the Rebbe, if that's the result of you giving criticism, you're not in a position of giving criticism. That means you're doing it at the end of the day for yourself. You have an I. If the criticism is warranted by Torah, then whether he listens or not is between him and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And I remind myself of a vort. I think you'll enjoy this vort. The Arizal writes that every single month there is some formation of the Yud Kei Vav Kei. Every month there's mazolos, and there's also somehow through the month, and there's a pasuk in the Torah that's associated with the Yud Kei Vav Kei for that month. Says the Arizal that the month of Shvat, the Yud Kei Vav Kei is formed from the letters V'hoyahu Usmurasa Yiyeh. In Parshas B'chukoisai, where it talks about the mitzvah of Temura, if you say an animal should be holy, and then you give a look and you have a nice bigger animal that's nicer and for the Beis Hamikdash, you say the first animal that I said Harei Hekdesh, it's holy, and I'm dedicating it for the Beis Hamikdash. No, I want to use that to give milk. I want to use it to do whatever it is. I have a nicer one. So you're not allowed to do that. It's called Tmura. You could do it. The halacha is V'hoyahu, the first animal, Usmurasai, and its exchange, Yeh shall be holy. Both. You're stuck. Now you have to bring 2 animals because you made a chalois in the brisker terminology of yeshiva. You made an impact by verbalizing that this animal should be holy. Not only did you make the first animal holy, you also verbalized and articulated that the second animal should be holy. So the Torah says in Buch Kaisaya a clear pasuk, and this is the content of the entire Masechta called Masechta Tmura. It's not a long Masechta, but over there are many, many details. So the Arizal says, if you take the first 4 letters, V'hoyahu Smurasa Yeh, it spells out Yud Kei Vav Kei. It shall be, and its exchange shall be. I was at a Fabrengen, I think it was 1980, early 80s. It was a Shabbos. It was Yud Shvat. The Rosh Chodesh Shvat, Shabbos Uvarchim, and the Rebbe would always speak about the upcoming yahrzeit of his father-in-law, the author of our Maamarim, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, the Frierdiker Rebbe. And the Rebbe spoke about this issue of what the Arizal. And the Rebbe asked a question: why is it that the gematria of the month is only V'hoyahu Usmurasa Yeh? So he'll tell you why is the word Kodesh not included? We know it's not that way because a kuf doesn't belong. It's Yud Kei Vav Kei, right? There's no kuf. We know that. We understand that. But the Rebbe said, what's the message from the Arizal's vort? Here is just for an example, the way Chasidus learning works. In Kabbalah, Kabbalah is what I call the pipeline of Judaism. A goes with A, C with C. If A goes with C, it's a mistake. It's like you put the pipes hot to hot, cold to cold, or on the battery to recharge your car. You have to know exactly where to put the cables. Otherwise, it don't go. That's the technicalities of Yiddishkeit spiritually, right? And that's Kabbalah. What's Chasidus? Chasidus is understanding this mechanism. Why is it this way? And this is what the Alter Rebbe began in Tanya and in his Svarim, and through the 7 Rebbes of Lubavitch, to use Mishalim, to use examples and parables from our own nefesh, from our own life, to understand the way it is in godliness. Okay. So the Rebbe asked the question at that Farbrengen, why is it that only the acronym for the month of Shvat is V'hoyu Usmuras a year? And the Rebbe answered, the idea of Shvat is, it says in the Torah, B'chodesh hazeh hoyel Moshe in Eila Dvarim. In Eila Dvarim it says, hoyel Moshe levayer HaTorah. This month, Hashem told Moshe to explain the Torah. It says, Rashi, this is the month of Shvat. Right? The 10th is the month of Shvat. Right? The 10th month. B'chodesh hazeh, the 10th month. He says, the previous Rebbe, the Frierdiker Rebbe, his idea was to bring Chasidus to the masses, so he had things translated in English and all of that, right? To outreach and all that. So the Rebbe said, this is why the acronym of Shvat is only V'hoyahu Smoras a year. Because a Yid must know that his job is to attempt to make an exchange. Whether the exchange will be holy or not, it's not your business. So the Rebbe, I remember it was a fascinating talk. So it was the Rebbe was saying this: you guys go out, you try to be makar of people, you work to be makar of people, and at the end they don't want to be frum. They don't want to come and learn. Or in our case, he doesn't want to listen to your criticism, so he's not becoming kaddish. I can't say kadosh. He's not holy. He's not frum. He's still doing the stuff, and he's not learning. Whatever the case, whatever situation. Nevertheless, that's not your mission. You shouldn't be concerned whether he becomes holy. That's between him and Hashem. You have to attempt to offer and to teach frumkeit and Torah and everything else. And the same is true with this criticism business. The same as idea. What should be relevant to you is that there's an issue here that needs correction and needs repair. And what you're doing is not proper, and not because I'm telling you it's not proper, because Kadosh Baruch Hu says, and I'm a conduit. Whether he listens or not, which is the equivalent, whether he becomes holy or not, it's not relevant to you. And you should know this is the hardest thing, especially someone who you care for, who's close to you, a spouse, a family member, a good friend. You know, when you tell them something and you really exert yourself and you put time, and then they basically just laugh at you and walk away, and they don't take a word what you said to heart, and they don't do anything about it, it eats you up, right? That's the tendency. What we're learning in the Maamarim is that shows that your criticism is not l'shma. And I think, my friends, this is a very, very important point that we have to knock into our heads over and over. You know, and it's this way with children growing up, and with shidduchim, I have it with the shidduchim. There's almost so much you could do. The rest the person has to do. And don't play Hashem. You understand? Don't play Hashem.
The rest what?
What?
The rest what?
The rest, it's between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the person. It's between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the person. Well, it's this way with shidduchim. You offer your children this idea and that idea, and you explain why. And at the end of the day, they decide something totally. That's between them and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we have to, if we come to a place where we become comfortable, that really this takes a lot of work, inner work, that we shouldn't get upset when it doesn't go my way, especially if it's my spouse, my children, my friend, and I really mean your best, and then they give you a slap in the face and they do just the opposite of what you told them. And you say, I spent so much money on you, I spent so much hours on you, and I put my heart and soul into it, and I mamish couldn't sleep at night because of you. And you go and in Yiddish we say, the five smiron, you spit me in the face. Oh boy, does that hurt. So what we learned in this Maimon, that's why it's a Maimon that requires thinking and learning about, is that a person has to sit back and say, look, I gave my best. V'hoya hu usmurasa year. That is the Yud-K, Vav-K. Kadosh is not part of the Yud Kei Vav Kei. In other words, it's not Yud Kei Vav Kei. It's not godly to expect them to become holy. No, that's an expectation. It's an unwarranted expectation. What the expectation should be is I have to do what Hashem wants. So I made my offer. I taught. I presented. I did my best. And then you walk away. And frankly, then you'll be able to sleep at night. You will be able to sleep at night. Why? Because you're doing what Hashem wants. Now it's between them and Hashem. My friends, tomorrow we'll learn. I hope we'll be back in there. If not, we're back at Lasers. Yes. Go ahead.
Rav, don't we learn that in Yiddishkeit, it's the effort we put in, not the result, that we should have to know whatever the effort is, we're rewarded on that basis.
Right, that's it. That's it. By the way, the sound is a lot better here. Okay, Zayt isn't everywhere.